get to your other love, Stephen A. Besides soap operas, and that would be the Cowboys. Right. Was that the right response for Jerry Jones when he was addressing Mike McCarthy and his future? What did you think about that?
No, it wasn't. In all seriousness, not trolling them at all like I usually do and have an absolute ball doing it. But I'm very serious here. He should not have done that. All he should have said was, we'll see. And you know why he should have said, we'll see, Shannon, Jeff? Because for the first 7 seasons that Jerry Jones was in Dallas, they were 11-2 in the playoffs with 3 Super Bowls. That was the best record, the best in the NFL in the playoffs, and they had 3 Super Bowl titles. Over the last 28 years, they're 5-12 in the playoffs with 0 Super Bowl titles. The man is 80 years old. He believes his clock is ticking. I hope that he's around for a very, very long time. Everybody knows I have a very good relationship with Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. I know I troll the Cowboy fans because I really can't stand them. It's a love-hate relationship. I really can't. They really do get on my last damn nerves. Make no mistake about it. There's nothing that pleases me more than Cowboy fans being miserable about their Cowboys. But in the same breath, I'm not rooting against Jerry Jones per se. I got a lot of love for him. I'm just telling you right now, being 80 years of age, having not won a championship in 28 years, going through all the things that they have gone through, a lot of it inflicted by Jerry Jones and some of the decisions that he made, particularly his loyalty to coaches who were non-productive and stuff like that. That hasn't been the case as of late. You see the roster that they've built. I think this is the best shot that they have at a championship. And the reason why I say the attitude should be we'll see when it comes to Mike McCarthy, fellas, is because of this reason. Mike McCarthy wanted the play calling duties. He was the person that, just expedited the departure of Kellen Moore so he could be the one calling plays, saying that there needed to be more balance, et cetera, et cetera. And then the minute Kellen Moore goes out the door, he does the same damn thing that Kellen Moore was doing, throwing the football more than he was running the football, obviously because he doesn't have a bell cow at the running back spot. In the end, it's on his shoulders. This is what he wanted. And when you consider what you see from the Cowboys, along with what you're seeing from other teams in the NFC outside of San Francisco, it should come down to the Dallas Cowboys literally looking at one squad standing in their way and figuring out how to beat them on a Sunday afternoon, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. In my opinion, if Mike McCarthy loses to anyone other than San Francisco, I wouldn't think about bringing him back. I wouldn't.
Saturday, go ahead. Take off Saturday.
Yeah, listen, I disagree. I mean, for Mike McCarthy, I think he stays irrespective of what happens. And I'll say this, unless the actual loss can be attributed to some decision he makes at the end of a game or whatever that you just feel like, hey, in these big moments, he continues. But other than that, like if it's just we line up and we get beat 27-24 or whatever, they have won 12 games 3 years in a row. They've won the division twice. Like they have put themselves in position to be successful. And to your point, Stephen A., him taking over the play calling duties this year, that's a new coordinator, right? Like they have to figure that out, and they have begun to figure it out. And obviously Dak has played significantly better at the latter part of the season than he even did in the beginning. He's at MVP numbers. All of those things are all arrows pointing up. He's got Dan Quinn at the defensive coordinator spot who has stayed with him. I think all of those are reasons where you go, yeah, man, he's got this organization in a good place. And again, San Francisco, to me, is a better roster than the Cowboys right now. But if you look at the Cowboys, the way they have played, especially here at the end of the season, this is a good football team. And all you can do is give yourself a chance, hope you show up in the playoffs and do the absolute best you can. But to your point, they are missing a back, which again, goes to roster construction, right? Like, they needed that. I wish they would have traded for a Derrick Henry midway through, right, to give them some kind of like ground and pound. So there are some things they're missing. They're still a very good football team. I do not think Mike McCarthy should lose his job, irrespective, unless the one scenario I brought up.
Jerry could have said nothing, but we know that wasn't going to happen, Stephen
Never.
A. and Jeff. That's not going to happen. Stephen A., you said something very interesting. You said he's shown loyalty to a lot of coaches, to a lot of losing coaches. It's kind of like Cat Williams told me on my podcast, which is now at 37 million views, Stephen A. He said you have an unnatural allegiance to losers. Now, see, the guy he should have been most loyal to was the guy that he just put in the Ring of Fame about 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
And that was Jimmy. And then he could just ride off into the sunset with 5 or 6 Super Bowls like Mr. Kraft. Even if he part ways with Coach Belichick, he said, I got 6 Lombardis. Jerry should have had 5. Jerry should have been Mr. Kraft before Mr. Kraft.
Yep.
Because you look at what he had. He had Mike, he had Troy, he had Emmett, and the oldest one was 28 when he fired Jimmy Johnson. But with that being said, let me ask you this, Saturday. Is it about wins or is it about Super Bowls? Because it seems like to me for the very first time, Jerry is not okay just being the most watched team on television. He's like, you know what? I'm starting to come to grips with my mortality. I've only got so many summers because there's a great chance that after this summer, I might not see another one. He said it before about 4 or 5 years ago. He said, you have no idea the size of the check that I would write if you tell me I can win just one more.
Yeah.
That's what's on his mind. He wants to do it when he said, this is a roster, this is a team that I constructed.
I would say this.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Who is the upgrade, right? You've got a coach that's won 12, and that was, and I'm not comparing Mike McCarthy to Jimmy Johnson. So like for the Cowboy fans, don't. But what I will say is this: you win 12 games a year. That ain't easy in the NFL. I don't care what anybody says. That's tough sledding, right? So if you're gonna make a change, you better have a hammer that is coming through and going to make a splash and is going to go win. You better liken it to what Harbaugh did when he went to the 49ers, right? He had eight losing seasons. He comes in, they play for 3 titles, and they go to a Super Bowl. Obviously, they lose it, but they get in one. You better have that type of production, because if you bring in another dude who wins 12 games and don't do anything, you haven't upgraded. So that would be my argument, would be you better make sure you got a hammer that is 100% win. I just don't know that it's out there.
With the Eagles struggling and the Bucs now being led by Baker Mayfield, who's had a better bounce back season, you think? Do you think Baker will cook Philly's defense?
I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to say it's entirely possible. I'm going to guess yes. I do not like what I've seen from the Philadelphia Eagles at all over these last 6 weeks. They have diminished into a shell of themselves. A.J. Brown is not healthy, obviously. Yeah. He just got hurt the other day, even though I expect him to be ready. But when you look at Evans and Godwin and the rest of the crew, and you look at Tampa's defense, coached by Todd Bowles, and what have you, even though he's the head coach, they're playing on their home turf. If this was in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field, I'd still favor them with trepidation. Why should I favor them at all if they're on the road in Tampa Bay? I don't like what I've seen from the Philadelphia Eagles. They don't look anything like they did last year. I'm going to say the answer to that question is yes. I do expect Baker Mayfield to cook the Eagles defense.
I mean, when you look at it, Stephen A., I mean, Tyrod Taylor basically threw for over 300 yards. Oof. Although he got injured and Tommy DeVito came in, they threw for the 2 of them, and he only completed 1 pass for 311 yards. You watch Dak Prescott light them up. You watch Sam Howell light them up to the tune of 397 and 4 touchdowns. So I do expect Baker to play extremely well for the same reasons that you mentioned. He's had a tremendous bounce-back season. He's going to get some votes for Comeback Player of the Year, although I don't think he's going to win that award. But he's throwing to Mike Evans, who's had a sensational year, and we know Chris Godwin. So do I expect Baker Mayfield, when you say light him up, do I expect him to throw for 400 yards? No. But would I be surprised if he threw for 300 and say 2 to 3 touchdowns? Absolutely not. And I'm telling you right now, I'm picking the Bucs. I'm taking them. I don't need to wait till Saturday or Sunday or whenever they play. I'm taking the Bucs.
Man, it's amazing for me to think back to 10-1 and where they were sitting, and after the loss, everybody's like, "Well, it's been an ugly 10 wins." And I'll be honest, I defended the heck out of them. I was like, "No, this is a team that's got the moxie, that championship moxie and that kind of stuff." But man, what I've seen the last 6 weeks has been awful. And when you think about not only on the defensive side where they're giving up, 31st in the league, and they're giving up to all the quarterbacks you just mentioned, Shannon, and those aren't the cream of the crop in the NFL, and the points they're giving up and the ability not to get off the field on 3rd down, and then you flip it over. Probably the most surprising part to me about the Giants game was you're playing Wink Martindale, and he's going to blitz you. Like
Pressure.
you get off the bus, everybody understands what this defense is built on, bro. It's built on pressure and turnover. That's all that dude cares about. He's going to bring the house. You better recognize. And the Eagles didn't have an answer or even look to be in the same building. It was like they were studying for French and they took a history test. Like it was over the top for me. And the problem for me is, what is the answer? They don't have an identity on offense. We kept talking about them getting back to the run game, being physical, allowing A.J. Brown for the play action, big passes. But, man, Jalen Hurts looked like he didn't have an answer. Sirianni looked like they didn't have an answer. Johnson, like all of it. It just does not look like it's put together. So could I see Mayfield torching them? I could. And I would have never a month ago I would have said no chance. And now it's a possibility for sure.
Jeff.
Yes.
Jeff, for you and Shannon, I mean, how the hell do you go from 10-1 to this? Man. Like, real quickly, is there something that y'all have seen that explains this? How do you literally nosedive like that?
Well, I will say this. I'll leave the defense. I'll let Shannon speak to that. But from an offensive perspective, they from last year when they had Shane Steichen this year, they do less under center. They have less play action. They have less yards after catch. They have less motion. They do less design runs with Jalen Hurts. And what does that lead to? Less productivity. Like they're simple. They line up 2 by 2. Everybody in the building knows how they're going to line up. Like at some point, you got to give some window dressing so people can respond. And I'm going to let you know, you can't just, I don't care what team you are, you can't just roll out there and think your best going to beat up on their best. They're good players on every team, and I think that's been shown the last 6 weeks for Philly.
Well, I just recommend they just line up in the tush push from start to finish, first down, second down, third down, and just run that. Because that seems to be the only thing that works consistently, guys. And defensively, the reason why, because they're not good. They don't create turnovers, and they turn the ball over entirely too much.
Yeah.
Right.
I love
Right up in the tush push all game. All game.
Just tush push that thing all the way. That'd be fun.
All day. All day.
The range,
all right.
the range of the
I haven't
show
heard that
is something
one.
special.